Hi, I'm Jan Shegda with Clarity Coaching. I work with individuals and groups to be at their personal best. And today we're talking about spiritual development for Enneagram style sixes. We'll talk about their social style, their center, how that affects spiritual growth, and then also a spiritual discipline that helps them, as well as a prayer posture. So let's jump right in. First, let's talk about the social style for sixes. So sixes, along with style 1 and 2 on the Enneagram, are a dutiful social style, which means that when approaching problems in the world generally, their go-to is try harder, learn the rules, be better, work, work, work. So, of course, there's a strength to that. The downside to it is that minds are constantly running. So ones, twos, and sixes all have kind of an overactive mind. So best way to deal with that spiritually is to integrate some mind-body, some meditation, silent solitude, anything to clear some space in the mind, so it's not just this constant churning, and there's more room for the divine to speak. So that's the social style, the dutiful style. The center, sixes along with fives and sevens are in the head center. So like we learned, the heart center needs to experience God more in the inner world because they're more outer directed, and it's the opposite for the head center. So head center individuals are very inner directed. Their thoughts, feelings, impressions, and they tend to mull these things over in their minds more consistently, and that's where they tend to experience God most naturally. So for spiritual development and growth, it's important for them to be able to experience God outside, in the outside world. So this can look like anything that's done in community, whether it's with a religious group or just a friend, or being in the outside world, so being in nature. Anything that's going to ground you to your five senses, what can I see, touch, taste, hear, smell, is going to help you get more outside that inner experience and more grounded in the body and the outside world. And those are all great exercises to connect to the physicality that's needed for head center folks. So those are our first two pieces. Let's talk about spiritual disciplines for style 6, the loyalist. So as many of you know, there's actually two kinds of sixes. Sixes are unique in the Enneagram in this way. You can be either a phobic or a counterphobic six, and I will add a link to a video I did about what that means, that difference. So if you've never heard that before, you can learn about that. But so for the spiritual disciplines and the prayer postures, I want to share one each for phobic and counterphobic with you. So phobic, which means just a fear-based six, someone that when they feel fearful, act fearful. A great spiritual discipline for this is sacrifice. And sacrifice meaning feeling the fear that you're experiencing and still moving forward. So this could be something like maybe if you're a self-preservation six, for example, and you get very careful about your money and your resources, an act of sacrifice might be sacrificial giving financially. Last week at a workshop I was doing on spiritual development, we had a six that shared a great example if you're a sexual variant dominant six, and he said that if he were to share kind of his innermost thoughts and fears in more of like a group men's retreat type environment, that would be an example of sacrifice for him. So the spiritual disciplines are a place where knowing your variant can be very helpful in figuring out what's going to be most useful for you. But the general idea of sacrifice is feeling the fear and embracing it in a way that releases control and embraces courage that things will work out all right. So the counterphobic spiritual discipline, by contrast, instead of fellowship, instead of sacrifice, would be silence. So, and of course, silence, just being a head center or dutiful person, is going to be useful for all sixes, but especially for counterphobic sixes, because that is going to allow the true feelings to surface. So counterphobia, again, instead of having a fearful response, it's almost a reaction. So you see a spider that you're afraid of and you immediately kill it instead of run away. It's still a fear-based response. And usually it's reaction to not wanting to feel some kind of uncomfortable emotion. That's why silence is the greatest spiritual development um, discipline for counterphobic sixes, because it allows the space for the six to truly experience what they're experiencing and then turn that over to God in a way that can be renewing and redemptive. So hopefully that's clear. So let's finish up with the prayer postures for style six. So for a phobic six, the fearful six, it's courage, which is hands balled into a fist crossed over your chest. So praying and asking for more courage, more boldness, and keeping it all for yourself and storing it up within your chest. The counterphobic prayer posture is a little different. Hands still crossed, but directly over the heart or the sternum. And so if you think of the spiritual discipline for sixes, which is silence, allowing kind of what's within to surface, it's similar in the prayer posture, which is, hands over the heart, trying to feel what's really there, experience what you're really experiencing, not reacting, but staying with, and then being with God in the midst of that and allowing Him to transform. So there's our spiritual development for sixes. Hope you enjoyed. If there was anything you would like to add, please do. And join us next week for spiritual development for Enneagram 7, the enthusiast. See you then.